guys, my name is Theo, and today we are talking about an IKEA hack. I think that's what the people are calling it these days. So basically, I've just been using a small, basic, super cheap kitchen table from IKEA as my desk. It was something that we had in our old apartment, and we weren't using it anymore, so I decided to just throw my computer on it, essentially. So a good friend of mine, Mariah, she was willing to help me upgrade it basically, and she's done this type of thing before to plenty of her own pieces of furniture, and she offered to help me out with mine. So I basically just wanted to kind of give myself a little bit more room. The table is relatively small, so I just wanted a couple inches on the end on each side basically to kind of give me some more room to breathe, essentially. But yeah, my friend loves working with wood and building all kinds of different pieces of her own furniture. So as far as all the tools and everything that you're going to need for this project, they will be listed here. Now, I'm not really the biggest handyman, you could say, really at all. So all these tools, all these this type of project, it's all her style and her hobby, I guess you could say. I definitely enjoyed this project and would love to do more things just like this. So to kind of get my hands dirty, I guess you could say. But all these tools I just listed were all her own, and she had basically everything we need. Now, this table from IKEA is, I don't even know what it's called. I will show you a picture of the name. It's a relatively cheap table. It's like around $40, but that's the one that we're working with for this project. So all we really needed for this project, all we needed to purchase for this project were just all the materials for it. So basically the wood, the stain, the primer, the screws, and the brushes for the stain and primer. But that's about it. So if you are doing this project for this table, you could do a number of different styles of wood. We ended up going with 8 feet by 6 inches, I believe was the size of the wood. The wood ended up measuring out to only 5.5 inches, so it wasn't quite 8 feet, or it wasn't quite 6 inches. Math. So keep that in mind. We decided to line the wood up top to bottom as opposed to the longer ways, mainly just because we would have wasted a lot more wood, and it would have cost us more money to buy more pieces of wood. Out of an 8-foot long piece of wood, we would only be using about 5 feet or so. So that extra 3 feet or whatever would have been wasted. So we decided to cut them into thirds essentially, and which made it so that we could use 3 pieces of wood out of an 8-foot board instead of one piece that was 5 foot and wasting the 3 feet at the end of it. So it made it just a little bit more efficient and a little bit cheaper. So that's kind of why we ended up doing it this way, which I don't know. I think I kind of like it. I think it turned out nice. It doesn't look. I thought it was gonna look a little bit weird with the boards going up and down as instead of the longer ways, but I like it. I think it turned out great. Now again, like I was saying, I am not really a handyman whatsoever. So she ended up doing most of the work. There was parts that I did try to do, but we didn't really have extra equipment, I guess you could say, extra pieces of board to really work with in case we messed up. So I decided to let her do it, and she was pretty comfortable doing these types of things. So working with a saw and the sander and all that stuff. So I just decided to let her let her go at it. So yeah, basically, if you are starting from complete scratch and have really never done anything like this before, so after cutting all of the wood into their correct sizes, she then sanded every side of each piece of wood. Also, one thing to note about the tabletop for this table, it's not actual wood. We don't know what it was, but my friend tried to sand it before we were going to try and drill the boards to the table, but it's not wood, so it didn't sand at all. So just a heads up for that. If you're going to try that, don't even bother. And then after that, we started staining the boards. We ended up going with a gray color. This is the primer that we used. But yeah, I wanted kind of more of like the gray tones, just to kind of, I guess, match the rest of our apartment. We have a lot of gray in our apartment, a lot of different pieces of gray furniture. So I like gray personally. So I think the color turned out great. So that was definitely a good choice. It was something that they've used before, so good on her for picking out that one. So we ended up staining both sides of the boards. And also only ended up staining the outer ends of each end. We didn't do in between each middle board, just because when we stained the top, enough seeped in and got the sides of the board enough so where you would see it, the parts where you can see through the cracks. So it didn't necessarily need to be it would have been a little more tedious pulling each board out and getting each side, so we just decided to do it like that. And then after staining it, we ended up priming it. Now, I was the one that actually ended up priming it, and I wish I hadn't been, because the stain that was initially on it was a little bit darker, more gray. You didn't see as many brown tones. And as I was putting the primer on, I wasn't really using a lot of the primer, so I was kind of brushing off quite a bit of the stain as I was putting that primer on. So a pro tip for you guys, if you guys are doing this for the first time, dunk that brush in and get a lot of primer on your brush as you're spreading it over, because you're just going to be basically just rubbing off some of the stain, and that might not be the look you were going for. I think it ended up turning out great. I kind of, it's grown on me quite a bit. I think I really liked the way it turned out. I couldn't be happier with it, but it wasn't my initial plan. So just a heads up for you guys when you're doing that. So for the second time, my friend Mariah had already drilled the boards into the table before I spread the primer, and because of that, we didn't end up priming the bottom side. So another pro tip for you guys is I would definitely prime all sides of the board before you drill them in. The main reason was because, again, we did this just for the second time because she was pretty busy on the day we were drilling them in. So I didn't have time to stain each side, so we just decided not to do it. And we didn't really know what would have happened because of it, because she always stained primers both sides of the board. But the smell in this room was pretty bad for a while, for a couple of days. So just a heads up for you guys, if you don't want that smell, you don't want to get high while you're working at your desk, definitely prime both sides of the board. So before she ended up drilling them in, she did use some wood glue in between the boards and table just to kind of help it sit while she was drilling them in. So after the primer was dry, I did flip it over upside down and threw some heavy items on the bottom just to let it sit flat and let the glue kind of dry up and have it sit while it could be as flat as possible. Another pro tip for you guys, when you are flipping it back over, I did hear some of the glue kind of separating just because we kind of tipped it on its side and didn't lift it straight up and then flip it over. Just heads up for that. But other than that, I think it turned out great. Another pro tip for you would be just choosing as flat as board as possible when you are picking out your boards. We only ended up using 3 boards, and some of them kind of had some lift, some flex to them. I think in a different circumstance where we were using a longer portion of the board, they would have laid a little bit flatter. But there were some parts that kind of lift up. It's not a complete flat table, so just keep that in mind. I think because they were shorter, it was a little bit harder for them to stay flat. It doesn't bother me much. I don't write on this table or anything. And the parts where I'm putting my hands is relatively flat. Also, there was one board that was slightly longer than the rest. So what I did to fix that, to kind of compensate for it, I guess, I lined up the front to be completely flush, and then I had the board that was sticking out kind of stick out towards the back, because it's going to be against the wall anyways, or even if it's not something you have to constantly deal with or see, so it's just on the opposite end. So that was just the way I kind of fixed that. But all in all, I think it turned out great. It was a great learning experience for myself. Again, it was definitely a lot of fun, and I would love to do more projects like this and kind of get my hands dirty, just because I don't normally do things like that. Power tools, to me, I don't know, kind of scare me, but I'd love to be a lot more comfortable with these types of things. So I definitely love to do more projects like this, and we're already getting ideas for other pieces of furniture in our house. But yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed this video. It's not kind of my normal type of video, but I just thought it'd be a cool video to record and put out there for you guys, for anyone else who is using this particular table and kind of wanted to do something to spice it up and give yourself a little bit more room and have it look a little bit nice. A little bit nicer than it already was. So that about does it for this video, guys. If you guys did enjoy it, please hit that like button. It is much appreciated. This isn't my normal type of videos that I usually put on my channel. I do a lot of photo and video stuff here on this channel. So if that is your type of thing, then definitely stick around and subscribe. But that's about it for this one, guys. I will see you guys later.